So, as you can see right here, I've got a pretty ambitious list of books to be read for my May 2020 TBR. We'll see if I can do it. I'll talk about these next. So I'm coming off a pretty good month of reading for April 2020. And April 2020, of course, was a big month as far as COVID-19 and the impact that coronavirus had on so many people who had to work from home and thus maybe had a little bit more time at the house and maybe a little bit more free time where you might be reading a little bit more because people aren't going outside maybe quite as much and aren't going to visit other friends and relatives quite as much as they normally would. And so a lot more reading being done. So really good month in April of 2020. That sets the stage for May 2020 for me. And I've got a pretty ambitious list of books that I'm looking at. Included in this is going to be a series. I don't know if I'm going to read the full 3-book series, but I want to read at least the first book of this series. So that sets the stage for the TBR for May 2020. Actually, one other thing is you might have seen some videos previously on this channel where I pledged that I was going to read one nonfiction book or put at least one nonfiction book on my TBR for each month. And I was going to put one classic book on my TBR for each month. So that is included in this video that I have coming up right now. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction book that I'm going to read for the month of May 2020. And I grew up a big professional boxing fan. And because I grew up a big boxing fan, and I grew up in Detroit, which is a big boxing city with a famous Kronk Gym, which was a big thing when I was growing up, I decided to pick a book of a Detroit legend, and that is Thomas the Hitman Hearns, the great boxer, middleweight boxer, welterweight boxer, and just had a tremendous career, fought some of the greatest to ever do it in the ring. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, his previous nickname was the Motor City Cobra, and so it's hard to talk to anybody in Detroit that is from that era or is any kind of a boxing historian that isn't familiar with Thomas the Hitman Hearns. Even if you're not from Detroit, but you're any kind of a boxing historian, you understand some of the glory years, maybe the golden age of boxing, if you will, especially in the middleweight era or middleweight division and maybe the welterweight division, then you certainly know about Thomas the Hitman Hearns. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. It's not a particularly long book, looks like a little over 230 pages, so should be a relatively quick read. Most nonfiction books are a quick read for me. So looking forward to reading this one, Hitman, the Thomas Hearns story. My classic book for the month is a book that's taken some wear and tear. The physical copy of this book is taking some wear and tear, and that is The Collector by John Fowles. And you can see that I had to put 3 pieces of tape on there to hold it back together because the cover was in pretty rough shape there. And you can see this is definitely an elderly book that I picked up, but I'm really excited about reading this one. I'm going to read a couple of the reviews on the back cover of this. Extraordinary, a brilliant achievement, the New York Journal American. This is from Time magazine, this next one. In this superb novel, evil has seldom found quite so many excuses for itself and seldom been so sinister. This one is from Kirkus Review. As marked and original as you are likely to read since The Bad Seed or Psycho. The Oakland Tribune writes, brilliant, stunning, you'll be shocked and fascinated. And then you have on the back cover, it became a major motion picture. And I've actually never seen the movie, but I've always kind of been interested in reading it. So this book was published in 1963, copyright 1963, Dell Publishing. So you can see right here some kind of classic books from that era, small type. So you look at it and it says that it's 250 pages, but I guarantee you it's going to feel like a lot more than 250 pages. But really excited about this one. The explosive nationwide bestseller, now a shattering motion picture. Chilling, shocking, exquisitely told from the New York World Telegram and Sun. I don't even know if that still exists, but that was certainly one of the reviews here. So this is my classic book that I'm going to look at for the month of May. Next up is a series that I discussed in a recent book haul, and that is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. I don't know if I'm going to get through all three, but I definitely want to start Truly Devious. I want to get started on that one because I know, or I feel pretty strongly that if I get through this one, if I start this one and get going, then I'll really power through and read it. And I did that once before with a series that I acquired. And I think the last time I acquired a series and really read through it was probably the Hunger Games series. And I read Hunger Games and got really excited about it, and then blitzed my way through Catching Fire, and then worked my way through Mockingjay. And so I'm thinking that this one could be very similar here. So Truly Devious, Maureen Johnson. It is set at a private school in Vermont, and it says Ellingham Academy is a famous private school in Vermont founded in the early 20th century by a tycoon, and it was designed for the best and brightest students. When Ellingham's wife and daughter were kidnapped, the only clue was a mocking riddle listing methods of murder, signed with the frightening pseudonym Truly Devious. So I'm really excited about this one. I like the setting. I like the mystery aspect of this. Even though these books are fairly lengthy, getting up to the high 300s into the low 400s, I'm still really excited about this. I think the setting is going to make for a really fun read. So looking forward to jumping into Truly Devious. And if things go well, then I'll read the other two, The Vanishing Star and The Hand on the Wall. So looking forward to jumping into the Truly Devious series. Next up, ironically enough, is probably the first book for May that I'm going to be reading, and that is The Holdout by Graham Moore. I actually read just the first page of it, and it actually kind of had something really interesting on the first page that kind of made me go, whoa, what? It was something that was kind of attention-grabbing, kind of weird, and maybe sparking a little bit of a suspension of reality because of what was said. But it's really a good story, and it kind of runs along two separate timelines. Again, similar to another book that I recently read, The Sundown Motel, which kind of ran along two different storylines. Now, this is a legal story, and sometimes legal stories aren't my favorite to read, but this story sounds really compelling. There are elements of race, sexism, that I think are going to make this a really intriguing story. I've read mostly good reviews about it, but I have read some interesting, maybe not so positive reviews, but I usually don't let that deter me when I think that the book is going to actually be a good one. So looking forward to reading The Holdout by Graham Moore. In another video, when I did a book haul, I talked about We Are the Wildcats by Sivan Vivian that I want to read. This book is one that just sounded really interesting to me. I had it pre-ordered months in advance, and it finally came to me last month in March, and so late March. So I was really excited about this one. Looking forward to this one. The only way the Wildcats will win tomorrow is if its varsity players, new and returning, come together tonight to know they can count on one another, to believe their whole hearts they will have each other's back until the final whistle. As coach likes to say, team first, always. That's why they lost last season. That's what broke them. Luckily, there's a tradition for just this kind of team bonding. One that happens tonight. It is a single facet of being a Wildcat that belongs to the girls. Or at least that's how it used to be. So I'm really excited about this book. I think it's going to be really interesting. I like the compressed time frame that it basically happens, I guess, in one night. So really excited about this one. We Are the Wildcats by Sivan Vivian. Next up is a book that I acquired I think a month or two ago, and I was really interested in the storyline, and that is Never Have I Ever by Jocelyn Jackson. I've actually read one Jocelyn Jackson book before, and that was Gods in Alabama, which had kind of an interracial story element that I thought was really interesting, and so I ended up picking up that book, and I really liked her writing style, and I thought the story was really cool, so I jumped into that one. Never Have I Ever sounds really cool because I think most people have kind of heard of that game, or at least heard that saying before. In this game, even winning can be deadly. So it just sounds really good. On the inside cover says, don't play games you can't afford to lose. And so I think this is going to be a really interesting book. I'm really excited about reading this one. It's got some really kind of cool reviews on the back. I'll read one from Lee Child, and behind me I have a bunch of books by Lee Child that I've been looking at getting into. Wonderful suspense and surprises, real characters, and a scary, ominous backbeat. This feels like the book Jackson was born to write. So really excited about this one. I'll read a little bit about from the inside cover. Amy Way is proud of her ordinary life and the simple pleasures that come with it. Teaching, driving lessons, baking cookies for new neighbors, helping her best friend Charlotte run their local book club. Her greatest joy is the family, her devoted professor husband, her spirited 15-year-old stepdaughter, her adorable infant son. But Amy's sweet, uncomplicated life begins to unravel when the mysterious and alluring Angelica Rue arrives on her doorstep one night for the book club. So on their book club night. So I think you can see the stranger that comes into the picture and kind of twists up the dynamic and really sets the stage for what should be a really intriguing story. So really excited about Never Have I Ever by Joshilyn Jackson. And last but certainly not least, we go back to a school campus with The Swallows by Lisa Lutz. And now this is another book that I've been really excited about. It's a pretty bulky book, actually, pushing up on 400 pages here. It looks like just short of 400 pages. So I'll read a little bit of the inside cover here. A teacher at a New England prep school ignites a gender war with deadly consequences in the dark and provocative novel by the author of The Passenger. When Alexandra Witt joins the faculty of Stonebridge Academy, she's hoping to put a painful past behind her. Then, one of her creative writing assignments generates some disturbing responses from students. Before long, Alex is immersed in an investigation of the students atop the school's social hierarchy and their connection to something called the Dark Room. She soon inspires the girls who started to question the school's boys will be boys attitude and incites a resistance. But just as the movement is gaining momentum, Alex attracts the attention of an unknown enemy who knows a little too much about her and what brings her to Stonebridge in the first place. So I think that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea for where this book is going, kind of a boys against girls kind of story. So maybe a little bit of a feminist type story. But it sounded really interesting to me, even though some people would probably be turned off maybe a little bit by some of the feminist angle of this book, or at least what it sort of suggests is going to be there. But I've been reading a number of books like this lately, so this one sounded really interesting and it kept popping up in suggested. So good job there by Amazon. Their algorithm is working really well because they got me to take the bite on this one, and I'm really looking forward to reading The Swallows by Lisa Lutz. So there you have it, a pretty ambitious month on tap for me. Reading wise, I got a good mix of books. I got my classic book, I got my nonfiction book, and I've got a good list of books that I think are going to be really interesting that I'm looking forward to jumping into. So hoping to have a very, very productive month of May reading, and I hope you likewise have a great month of May reading as we continue on this BookTube journey. If you would, please consider hitting the like button for this video, and if you like good BookTube and AuthorTube content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification to be updated when future videos on this channel come up. Keep reading.